This is the story of how I ended up in the world's largest daily English newspaper in the world, which is the Times of India, with a circulation of 2.5 million people, and why I'm insanely proud of the advocacy work I was able to do for the type 1 diabetes community, because it took a tribe of people to make this moment happen, and I think it represents how we should continue moving forward as a global community. Let's dive into it. Alright, first, it isn't the easiest thing to end up halfway around the world from where I'm from, New Jersey, New York, to actually be in Bangalore for this article to be written on March 2nd. So, for those who are new to the channel or aren't quite familiar, Annalisa, who's my teammate, she also has type 1 diabetes. I have type 1 diabetes, both for roughly 12 years. We have a series called Miles of Portraits, which is a series about the people that we meet while riding our bikes around the world. If you watched my Q&A video, which I'll leave somewhere up in this area, you hear me mention using Kickstarter as a way to fund projects now, so you get experience to not have to solely wait on one organization. So going over to our Kickstarter page for Miles of Portraits, what is amazing to now look back on for our India Kickstarter is that over 103 people in our family group, friends, followers, and then our brands and sponsors came together to raise the $8,800 to come to India for 2 months. Now, there's a lot that we didn't know coming to India, but what ended up happening is that our trip, which I left the day after Christmas to come here, started and ended in Kochi. So I had to wait for an invitation from someone special to actually go up to Bangalore, where the event that this article is about took place. Now, the person that invited me up to Bangalore is Apoorva, who is up in New Delhi, but what brings us together is that we are both leadership members on Beyond Type 1. And the way that Apoorva and I got connected is that in 2018, she ran the New York City Marathon to raise money for them. And since that's my home state, we were sending messages back and forth trying to connect. And then in 2019, when I ran the marathon, she was also in the area, but it was just this kind of never-ending loop of almost being in touch, but not quite at the same time. And so when she knew that I was in southern India and that she'd be in Bangalore, she sent out the invitation to show up for a conference happening here in Bangalore, but also the foundation of something that I had no clue was in the works. You see, what Apoorva wasn't truly sharing with me, or what I didn't know until I actually showed up, was that there was a pan-India, meaning someone from every single state of India, coming together in Bangalore to start the Type 1 Foundation of India. This is the first kind of countrywide Type 1 diabetes advocacy group here in India, and that's why everyone was coming together, which I didn't know. Now, that's an amazing thing because I'm able to bring my camera to take photographs, but also videos, interview people, what's going on, and show up. And something that I heard kind of time and time again was that we're lucky in the US to have celebrities, to have people speaking up, showing off their flash sensors, and be proud of living life with diabetes. And what I was trying to share with them is that basis of that movement has been there for a long time, but really in my own personal life, Beyond Type 1 is the organization, in part because Nick Jonas is behind it, that gave it such an international and global feel, saying we are together, we are here to highlight each other and lead to moments like myself coming from New York and flying halfway around the world to be connected with the diabetes community and be there as an ally and supporter when other organizations who are doing such important work are starting off to amplify their voices. Alright, but enough chit chat. I figure this article is short enough that I can actually read it and share it with you all. And although it didn't end up on the front cover of the Times of India, it is on the front cover of the inside section, saying, "Diabetics live life to the fullest." From a national basketball player to an American adventure filmmaker, from a 4-year-old to a septuagenarian. That means someone who's lived for 7 generations. They were all there from various walks of life. What united them at the Bharat Scouts and Guides Auditorium on Sunday was that they were living with type 1 diabetes and yet celebrating life. A pan-India, meaning from all across India, support group for such patients, Type 1 Diabetes Foundation of India, was launched at the event. However, a type 1 diabetic can live a normal life like any other healthy person. The real issue is a lack of awareness and the stigma associated with it, said coordinator Naveen Kotaji.
Once you are touched by diabetes, till your last day of life, you have to live it.
Thanks to awareness, hundreds of type 1 diabetics live life to the fullest. Pradat Singh, a national basketball player from Patalia, said, "In my town, there's no awareness on type 1. By chance, I got associated with a not-for-profit and learned to take it in stride." New York-based Erik Douds, an ambassador for Nick Jonas's Beyond Type 1, has been cycling over 1,000 kilometers in Kerala over 2 months. Living with the disease 24/7 brings many challenges. While US and UK have framed policies accepting it as a disability, India doesn't have that despite having a higher population of diabetics. This makes it difficult for people to lead normal lives. For instance, not many teachers understand students need special breaks to beat hypoglycemia. Alright, while ending this video, I actually thought about dressing up and looking nice to kind of address the more political side of things, the more diplomatic stuff, but instead I thought after a sweaty workout that actually represents more of what I'm trying to drive home. Because in this article, I say, while US and UK have framed policies accepting it as a disability with a lowercase d, and what I'm trying to reference is that in the US we have the Americans with Disabilities Act that give me a lot of protection as someone living with type 1 diabetes. One example, which is what I was trying to get at the end of this article, is that if I'm taking a standardized test, usually you're not allowed to have food legally in that room. However, because diabetes falls under the American with Disabilities Act, I actually have a legal disability that grants me certain rights, such as having food to treat hypoglycemia. And because of the individual work that took years to form the Type 1 Foundation, we had one of the youngest members of parliament show up.
A few months ago I learned about type 1 diabetes when I made a visit to a center run by Dr. Shrikantha in my constituency.
Who's just a year older than I am, and we're able to have face-to-face conversations where India just passed their Disability Act and didn't include diabetes, and we were able to have face-to-face conversations on why that is so important. And what's amazing in this international work and world that we're now living with, I can tell him as a 28-year-old, because he's 29, how important some of these protections have been in my own life and for all of our lives.
I learned that this is a cause that all of us need to support, encourage, and express solidarity with.
And for him to make a political pledge to help fight for those rights. And it's only because he was learning about the diabetes community after that legislation was passed that he wasn't fighting harder sooner, or at least that's what I want to believe, because I did believe him. But it shows you how individual voices can bring together an event to form a nonprofit that's able to bring outside voices to amplify that through video. And I believe that is the way up that our community should be expanding globally, to have authentic conversations and protect our authentic voice when we are advocating for ourselves and when we are building out programs to make life with type 1 diabetes a little bit easier.
So I have been told that in Goa, the state has made provision of insulin free for all patients, especially the ones who are suffering from type 2 diabetes. Goa is a much smaller state compared to Karnataka, both in size of our population as well as in the share of our economic strength. If Goa can do it, I think Karnataka can also take a step towards that direction. My request to